Hello everybody, welcome back to another mini Unity tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to create an objective system using the Unity engine. Before we get right into this tutorial, if you guys are new to the channel and you find this tutorial helpful, make sure to hit that red subscribe button. Also make sure the notification bell is clicked so you don't miss a single upload I come to this channel. Also, don't forget to smash a like on this video. That'll help boost the YouTube algorithm. Also, don't forget to check out my Patreon, where you can get exclusive benefits for early access to sponsorships. Alright, let's get right into this tutorial. What you see right here, I got a basic scene here. This is the asset from the Decrypt dungeon here. Decrypt, the Decrypted Dungeon Lite asset from the asset store. It's free to download. So this is the thing I'm going to use to create our objective system. Wanted to have an objective system for your game. My simple method of creating an objective system hopefully should help you improve your game more. I looked on YouTube, everywhere on YouTube to find a simple objective system. All I could find was either a quest system to freaking Unity 5, which is JavaScript, or it's just a simple asset that's already pre-built with no code. I was working on my new short upcoming horror game that's delayed till 2023. If you guys have not heard the announcement, I simply found a way how to make the system. So what I'm going to show you, hopefully does work with your system. I mean your game. So what I'm about to show you will be available as a project. There'll be a paid project that you can get on itch.io, my website, and Patreon. So let's get right into this. Not the chatter. Alright, so how we're going to do this. First, we need a scene. If you want to use the scene, I'll leave a link to this asset down in the description down below. Any scene can work. Alright, so I already got a first-person controller right here. This is a pre-made one. I already have my first-person controller here. I pre-built this, and so I got my first-person controller right here. Pre-built. Already touched a first-person controller script. If you guys want to code your own first-person controller, I highly recommend Comp3's interactive, detailed first-person controller series, which I will leave a link to that in the description as well. If you guys want to learn how to do that, it's not that hard to code. Once you get used to it, you can customize it to your liking. We need to create a UI. If you guys don't know what UI is, it's basically user interface or HUD, heads up display. So in order to do that, go to your assets folder, right click, create a folder, and name it objective system, which I already done ahead of time for this tutorial. And we also need to create 4 folders, one for the scripts, one for the sound effects, one for the prefabs, and one for the animations. If you download this project from itch.io, Patreon, or my website, you will see 5 folders. One with the character controller, which I will be providing. If you guys don't have this, it means you don't have it. You have to create one yourself. You need to create a folder for the animations. You need to create a folder called prefabs, one called scripts, and one for sound effects. Once you create those, and you want to go into the assets, objective system, animations. You want to create one for text animation and one for the panel animation. Then go back up here, go to scripts, create another folder called objective system by right clicking, create folder. Then here, this is where we're going to keep the script. I already went ahead and created a script, named it objective. You want to create that script right now, you can. By all means, do what you do. And sound effects. These sound effects right here, they're in this folder. These will not be available in the project. It will be a different sound effect I'll be providing, because these sound effects, they're in this project right now for this tutorial. For the sake of this tutorial, is from a sound effect pack a sound effect pack by Sidearm Studios. I believe that's its name. Ultimate Sound Effects Bundle, which is really affordable. I highly recommend if you want to use the same sound effects I use in this tutorial. By all means, I'll leave a link to this itch.io page right here. It's worth the $10. The good thing about this, if you look right here, flexible license. All the sounds are 100% royalty free. You can use them in your commercial games, video streams, or anything else. That's one thing about this pack. So it's definitely worth $10. Once you create your sound effects, you can import any sound effects that can trigger the sound effect. Alright, let's get on to this. So what we need to do now is go to game object up here. Go to UI. If you guys are using Unity 2020 or below, you'll see option for text and text Mesh Pro. If you're on the newer version of 2021 or higher, you will only see text. I think they got rid of the, oh, there we are, legacy text. Yeah, they are starting to get rid of certain ones. If you don't want to use Text Mesh Pro, go to legacy, select text. We don't need the text right now. My bad. Take that back. We need to go to game object, UI, raw image. That's the one we needed. Right. Let's go up here, and we need to anchor it into position. Right. Make sure this is unlocked. Make sure the inspector lock is unlocked. If it's locked like this, click it, unlock. By default, it should be unlocked. Alright, we need to rename this to objective display. Alright. Now we need to go to the anchor points right here, or anchor presets. Hold down Shift and select the top right hand corner. Or is it Alt? Alt. Sorry. Hold down Alt and select the top right hand corner. That's where you want it to be anchored at. Anchoring, if you're handling anything with UI elements, make sure you anchor them, otherwise it will look weird. Oh shit, I don't want to do that. There. Right, so we got it anchored where we want it. Now we need to stretch it out. We need to bring this down a little. About right here. Let's look at the game view. Perfect. The size, for the height, we keep it at 100. For the width, I'm gonna say 500. Let's bring this here. Let's see. Whoops. Let's get rid of that tab. Ignore while I'm clicking. Alright, that looks good. Let's bring it up to like 900. I think that's a more reasonable. Alright, perfect. We need to bring it down just a little bit more. Alright, so type in 815 by 100. Now, perfect. I'm going to change the color. You can change it to, it can be any color you want for the panel. For me, I'm going to go with a red. I'm going to, right here, where's this RGBA? The A right here stands for alpha. I'm going to highlight the 255. I'm going to bring it down to 150, which will be a more reasonable opacity. Alright, we can exit out of there. Alright, so we got that set up. Now we need to get the text. So with object display highlighted, right click, UI, legacy, text, or go to game object, UI, legacy, and text. So let's go ahead and go to right click, UI, legacy, and text. If you're gonna use Text Mesh Pro, I will make a separate tutorial on this with TextMesh Pro. So I'm going to use, for now, for this tutorial, I'm going to use legacy text. So I'm going to aim this to objective text. Alright. We might not gonna need the objective text animation. I don't know. We'll find out a long way on the road. Alright. And here in the text, we're gonna type in objective. The objective can be anything you desire. For me, it's gonna be escape the dungeon before the timer runs out. The font, you can change the font to anything you like. You can download a font from defont.com. For me, I'm going to use Bangers, which is a nice font. Set this to bold. Bring the size up to 28. We need to size this up real quick. And we need to anchor the text. So, in the text component, in the inspector panel, go where it says paragraph, alignment. Keep this to the left hand. We want to change this. Where it says anchor top, we want to anchor the middle. So these three lines, they're right to the top here. That's the top. Middle is this one right here. That's center. That's middle. One's on the bottom. That's bottom. So you want the center. And we're going to change the font color to white. Let's see how it looks. Okay, we need to bring it up to like 35. I think normal should we do? Yeah, normal. So yeah, for Bangers, it's going to be normal. To 38. Perfect. 38 is more reasonable. Is a more reasonable size. Alright, so we got objective, escape the dungeon before the timer runs out. I'm going to go ahead and edit a component, type in outline, do that. You don't have to add an outline if you don't want to, it's completely optional. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we got to animate this. So I'm going to, with the text component in here, I'm going to highlight all this text. I'm going to hit Control C. I'm going to hit backspace. Because this is going to be customizable through a script. That's why that in our scripts folder in the objective system folder, objective system, this is where this is why we created a script. This is where the script comes into play for that reason. Alright, so let's get this to animate. Alright, so we want to go to our animations folder. Let's go ahead and delete the text animation folder because we don't need it. We just need the objective panel animations. In that animation panel animations folder, we're going to go ahead and go to the animation tab. If you do not see this animation tab, go to the three dots right here, add a tab, and select animation. We'll give you this. Alright, so now we need to animate this. So with the object display selected, we're going to go to the animation tab. We'll make sure we're in our objective panel animations folder. Hit create. And it's going to save to our panel animations folder. We're going to hit objective display. I don't know, that's what we're going to call it. And click save. There we go. I'm going to press record. Right now, on the first keyframe at 0 frame, which is 0 seconds, we want to take the position X. The X position, go from left to right. This is the X position. Right, so we go to our scene folder. We're going to select the move tool. We want to click on this red arrow right here. You don't want to click the blue or the green. You want the red. With the red arrows clicked, make sure you click on the right arrow, hold down the left mouse button, hold down shift, and drag your mouse to the right till it's off screen. That'll be seen as visible. Alright. In our position here in the inspector panel, you can see it's at 428. So we need to remember that number. That position number we want. Alright? So now that's our starting position. Right now, if we go move forward, click the record button. If it's when we go forward, it doesn't do nothing. Because we need to set another keyframe. So get the record button pressed again. We're going to go to the 60th frame, which is 1 second. Now we need to click on the red arrow again. Make sure the left mouse button is, make sure you're holding the left mouse button. Hold down shift and drag across. And we're going to go to our rect tool and just align it right there. Perfect. So go back to 0 frame, set the record button. I'm going to select all these keyframes. Right click, both tangents, select linear. So now let's see what it looks like. Perfect. Alright. So now we need to hit the record button. Now we need to have it hold for several seconds. So we're going to go to the minimum, I would say, is 3 seconds for it to hold. So at the 180th frame, in our inspector panel, the rect transform component, position X, negative 407.5 or whatever number it is. Highlight it. Hit the right arrow key, hit backspace once, and put in that number in, that whatever number that was there. Alright, and for it to go out completely at the 300 frame, remember that number you're supposed to remember. If you don't know it, go back to the first keyframe. Here to 0 frame, 428. So at frame 300, we need to go in here to the position X and set this to 428. I believe that's what. Yep, 48. Alright, set the record button. Select all the keyframes. Right click, both tangents, linear. It should be linear, should be like that by when we create those keyframes. So now let's look at this again, see how this looks. Perfect. Sweet. Alright, so that's animated. So the ejected, with the ejected display still selected, go right here to where it says the animated component. Go to the 3 dots right here, the animated component. Remove component, because we're going to add a component. Add a animation component. So remove that component, click the button where it says add component and type in animation. Alright, in our project tab here, switch over to the project tab. Make sure you're still in that folder. There's 2. You should have a animator controller and a animation clip. We want, in order to use animations with the animation component, you gotta make sure the animation component is a legacy animation, because Unity will give us a warning if we don't say it's a legacy. So with the ejected display anim selected, go to the inspector panel, click the 3 dots right here, where underneath where it says layout, click those 3 dots, select debug. In this properties panel, where it says legacy, by default it's going to be unchecked. If you tick it, it's going to be set to legacy. So we go back to those 3 dots right on the top right hand corner, set it back to normal, and you'll have wrap mode. By default, it's going to be default. Alright, so we want to go to that drop down menu, and we want it to set it to once. We want to play that animation once, because we're going to call it on the script. Alright, back to the objective display. Make sure play automatically is unticked, because we're going to call it on the script. We might have to tick it, depends if it's going to work without with this being ticked. So with the animation component, drag in objective display animation and drop it right there. Boom. We'll add it to element 0. So make sure, if you're going to use animations, make sure the animation that you created is in the animation component. Otherwise, it will not work. Alright, onto the actual coding. Alright, you can get out of here, back to our objective system folder, go to our scripts folder, and let's go back into our objective system folder. If you have created the objective script, created the script already, that's good. If you didn't, go right click, create C# script, and name it to objective or wherever you want to name it. Alright, once you created that, let's open this in Visual Studio. The version of Visual Studio I'm using is Visual Studio 2019 Community. If you're using 2015, that's fine, but I'm using 2019. Alright, by default, you'll see some green words, which are called notes. You should see a void start and void update. You want to select those and delete them out, because we're not going to need them. Alright, you know what? I just forgot something. We need to place those triggers. Back in our scene folder, let's go select our first person controller. We're gonna show you guys, let's see, where can we place this trigger? Right here it's gonna be fine, right between these two beams. Alright, let's go to the game object, 3D object. We're gonna use a cube. Do not use a sphere, capsule, cylinder, plane, or quad. Cube is more reasonable. Alright, let's set this into place. Looks perfect. The size on the X is gonna be 10. Let's go with 15. And the Y is gonna be 10. Alright. Let's untick mesh renderer, and its trigger is ticked. And we want to call this the objective. I'm going to call this the objective, or you want to keep it as objective, that's fine. Let's go to our presets folder. Let's drag and drop this into our presets folder. If you're all probably wondering, why not attach the script there? There's a reason why I did not attach the script here, because if we're going to use this again to place it in our level, it will re-trigger whatever we're going to code in here is going to re-trigger that same objective. So my advice to y'all is not to attach that objective script in here. So that's the main reason why I'm not attaching it to this trigger. Alright, so we got that set up. Let's go back into Visual Studio and let's get into the actual coding. Alright, we need a namespace right here. If we go to line 3, where it says using Unity Engine, hit enter. Then you want to type in using Unity Engine .UI. You don't want UI elements, you want straight up UI. That's the only namespace we need. If I can go back to my so we need an audio source and 3 game objects. So these are going to be public variables. So I'm gonna forward slash, do a double forward slash. These are gonna be notes. And call this public variables. Right, and here you don't have to do the same thing as I am. I'm just doing these as notes for the tutorial. Alright, so we want public, all lowercase, audio source. Then we're gonna name this to, I'm gonna call this obj, short for objective. I'm gonna call it effects, and put in effects all capital for sound effects, or SFX for sound effects. Then semicolon, then enter. Then we want public game object objective. We're gonna call this the objective. Be more specific. Right, semicolon, then public game object. Then we want the triggered, because there's a reason why I'm referencing the triggered in this game object. I'll explain it after we code this. Alright. So we got our variables set up. We set up our triggered. So now what? We need to, since the trigger that we set in our level is set to is trigger, we need to do a on trigger event. So type in, and this is going to be private, so we want a private void on triggered, enter, apply to other. Make sure your capitalization is important. Alright, so once you got that, let me check back in my notes. So back into the Unity, we want to go to our first person controller, and we want to set the tag to player. Make sure player is there. If you don't see it, add a tag, name it player, or you can name it as first person controller. And back in Visual Studio, we're going to do a if statement. So if other dot compare tag is to player, then we're going to do the following. Don't need it. Okay, so these we don't need. The curly brackets we don't need. So we need to do a start coroutine. Call this mission objective, or mission obj for objective, right? Alright, so we got that, and yes, the name of the coroutine will be red because we need an enumerator. Alright, so we can create that right now. So we can, it's also going to be private as well. So private enumerator, and remember, it's got to be the same name as you set the coroutine. So we can type in mission obj, then open curly open parentheses, close parentheses, then curly brackets. Right, and press enter. Now you can see that name of the coroutine is no longer underlined in red. So this is now highlighted in red because we need to, it needs a delay function. So let me the sound effect to play. So we're going to have obj sfx.play. Then, so we want the objective, the get component text dot text equals. If we go back into the parentheses and we Control V, remember to copy whatever is in that text component in the objective panel. Paste it in semicolon. My bad. We need to set the animation for the objective that get component, animation. Oh, whoops. On. Could be spiky brackets. Animation dot play and here it's going to be the name of the animation that we need. So go back to the Unity engine, go back to our animations folder, panel animations, and ejective display anim. So if I hit F2 on my keyboard, it will let me. Make sure you automatically highlight everything. Press Control A on a keyboard. Then go back into Visual Studio and Control V that in. Whoops. I guess it didn't highlight everything. Make sure everything is highlighted. So we'll try this again. Boom. Back to Visual Studio. Control V. There we go. So we got the name of the animation. Now we can call this. Press enter. So we need to go to yield, return, new, wait for seconds. You can modify this to how long you want it to be, as long as it's greater than 3 seconds, or whatever, how long you created that animation for. So the default animation is 5 seconds. I'm going to do 5.1 F. Or just be on the safe side, 5.3 F. Short for float. Semicolon. Now, since we added that delay function, that you can see here, the name of the auto numerator is no longer underlined in red because we did a delay function. Alright, so after 5.3 seconds, almost 5.5 seconds, if I go, let me go back to my notes again. Okay. So we need to get the. Oh, I see what I did wrong. Okay, we need to add another variable called public game object of text because we're using UI text elements. All right, so this should be the text. All right, that should be the animation. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So the text dot get component, bracket brackets, text, capital T in text, and dot text, lowercase in text, lower T in text, then double quotation marks, and semicolon, because we want to set that to none after 5.5 seconds. Then here the none. This is the reason why I told y'all to add a variable for the trigger, because we want to disable this trigger after 5.3 seconds. If we don't set this reference to disable this trigger, it's gonna trigger it again and again and again. So we don't want that. So I found the solution. So remember the public game object, that trigger that we added as a variable. So after the text component text, after we set the text to none, we want the trigger dot set active, set that to false because we don't want to retrigger that. All right, we can go ahead and hit Control S to save that script. I think that's it for the coding. So let's go back into Unity. Once it compiles the scripts, we can go ahead to the objective. Go to our scripts folder, objective system, and let's drag and drop the objective. The objective because the script is gonna make sure there are no compile errors. Okay. Is it compiling or what? Okay, it compiled it. Don't know why it's giving me that error. Objective 01. Oh, I see, I see, I see, I see. I see what I did. It's the public class name. Make sure the public class name is set to the name of the script. If it says different, fix that. Otherwise, you will get that error. I see what I did. Alright, now let's try re-adding that script to the trigger. There we go, that's better. Let's see, we're gonna add with the first person camera, we're gonna add audio source, we're gonna call this the object, SFX. It'll go to there. I'm gonna untick on play awake. I'm gonna go to my SFX. Remember, these sound effects will not be in the project. If you want to use the same ones, remember, link down in the description. I'm gonna use notification sound 4 for the audio clip. Here's how it sounds. Love that. Alright, let's go and assign these to the script. Okay, so OBJ sound effects will be this, the audio source on the first person controller. Object effects to sound effects. The adjective will be adjective display. Then the text will let's see, the trigger will be the adjective because that contains the trigger. And the text will be objective text. Boom. Now let's see this in action. I'm going to set this to play focus, play maximize. Right, if we click play in our hierarchy, let's see this in action. Okay. Okay, I see what the problem is. So we set this. Oh, okay. We need to set. Okay, I see what I did wrong. Of course, I'm sorry this is taking longer than expected. This is why I'm doing it more detailed to try my best to explain it to y'all. So my apologies. We want to have the ejector display unactive. So we need to go back to our script. Okay, so now we need the objective. Okay. Okay, so we want underneath the sound effect, after the sound effect plays, we want the adjective dot set active, set this to true. Then after it goes back, after it goes off screen, we want that to be false. So the adjective dot set active false. Whoops. And let's save that script. Now this should be working as intended. Sometimes the script does work, and sometimes it's a little buggy, so this is why it's a little bit of miscoding. So sometimes I make mistakes. So it's best to learn from it. Alright. Now it should be good to go. So let's go to file, save, and file again, save project, and select play. Now this should be working as intended. Alright, it's off screen. Now if we go walk towards here. Perfect. Now we got ourselves, see, if we go back in, it's not going to trigger it again. If we go back in, see, it's not going to trigger it again. That's the reason why we had to. Now, I'm going to explain it to y'all why we had to reference it. So if we go back to our coding, if we take out this, if we take this line of code out of here, delete it, and delete the variable, and save the script. That's why I told y'all to reference the trigger. Alright, so let's play this again. If we go in here, it's gonna play. If we go backwards, see, it's gonna re-trigger it. See, you don't want that. See, you don't want that. That's why I told y'all to reference the trigger. So that's just a little food for thought. If we can get some likes on that. So we're gonna add that back in. So that's why it's important to reference the trigger if you don't want it. So let's say that script again one more time. So yeah, if you set the trigger to disable that trigger, it won't trigger again. If you don't reference it, it's gonna be repetitive. Alright, so let's attach that there. Now we got ourselves a working ejector system. Play this again. There we go. Ejective. Escape the dungeon before the timer runs out. Perfect. Now if we try to go back in. Oh Jesus, that scared the shit out of me. Okay, if we go back in here, won't trigger. That's what we want. Alright. So that's simply how to do the ejective system. So the reason, and I'm going to explain this right now before I end this, I'm going to explain to you why I didn't want to attach the script in the prefab of the trigger. So if I was to add more ejectives in here, somewhere in the level, right here, like right here. Let's go back to our prefabs. Let's drag this in here. Boom. Let's rotate this by 90 degrees. And we can resize it down to 10. And I was to then go back to I don't want to use this again, but if I click on the ejective and right click or press Ctrl D to duplicate, it'll give us a new script called ejective 1. So if it was going in there, because right now the console is giving us an error, it says the namespace global namespace already contains a definition for ejective, so it's telling us we already got this in here. So we want to change this to this right here. So in here, we want to go to ejective, where it says a namespace. We want to add a 1 in there, and boom, it'll give us get rid of those errors. So remember we had that text component, reference to text, that component text right here. We can change this to something like let's see, run for your life, and save that. Let's go back into Unity, let that compile, and bring this down here above the main ejective. We're going to call this, rename this to ejective_1. Now if we can attach that script right there, let's lock that on, reference. If we can attach these, the variable, attach the, variables or game objects, whatever you want to pronounce it. The ejective is the display. These components. Alright. Now, if we play this again, I'm going to walk through the first one. Alright. And go in here. Boom. Perfect. Right, that's simply how to create the ejector system in Unity. I know that was complex, more detailed. of an explanation. I try my best explaining all the simple system, but this system will work as long as you do not use the same script. Like I showed you, to duplicate the script and modify it. Rename the namespace and just modify the text component, the ejective text component. Right here was this objective learn for life. As long as you can modify this line of code right here and modify the namespace when you duplicate the scripts, it should work perfectly. So remember, the objective system project will be available on itch.io, my website, and Patreon. Sorry if it's a long tutorial. I'm trying to do my best to explain everything. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope this tutorial was helpful to y'all. If you need more help, don't hesitate to contact me on Discord. I'm always active on there. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you want to see more, if you want to request a Unity tutorial from me, make sure to leave a comment down below. I will do my best to cover that subject. Thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you guys in the next Unity tutorial.